Studson, open your eyes. Tell the good people what you're crafting this time.
Alright, had a lot of good guesses from a lot of good people and y'all nailed it. That's right, I'll be crafting the famous horse tent from Breath of the Wild, one of my favorite Zoldos. But first we need to go outside and collect some ingredients.
Squad alarm, you're off!
Today's build is going to be pretty recycle friendly. I'm starting by just breaking down a bunch of dead bushes into some miniature logs, then giving them a stew and bake. Cool, we're good on collecting ingredients. Now it's time to collect some research. Close-up pics of the horse are a bit hard to come by online, so my best bet was to climb all over it and take screenshots. For the base, I'm starting out with some medium weight chipboard, which is basically just glorified cardstock. Honestly, it feels a little off-brand that I actually spent money on cardboard and didn't pull a Cheez-Its box from the recycle, but this stuff is the top tier thickness. Highly recommend having some of this in your crafting arsenal. Though sometimes it's a little too thick, which is why we need to shave off some of these hangnails to blend the cut into the tabletop. Eventually this part will be covered in dirt and grass, so we need to hide the abrupt paper edge. Beautiful. I'm building the stables at 28mm scale so it fits with various tabletop games. Each of the 12 posts around the stable are clipped to about 2-inch lengths, which is a decent height for 28mm minis.
Boy!
I'm using coffee stirring sticks to add beams between each post. For the little deck that juts off the front of the stable, I'm loading it up with glue and then rows and rows of more stirring sticks. I'm going to come back and paint this later, but for now let's start building the tent part of the tent. For the tent canvas, I'm going to use some old rags and clothes that I have lying around. I've seen other crafters have great success with using tissue paper as scale cloth for tents, like Neil over at Real Terrain Hobbies, but I wanted to see how actual fabric would work since it actually has visible woven fibers. I can already see we won't get as fine of details in our folds, but this is an experiment more than anything. Generally, I try to donate clothing to Goodwill before cutting it up to make toys for myself, but this clothing was already too far gone or soiled to be donated. By the way, did you catch that 300 IQ move there? I'm using the hem of the shirt around the edge of the tent so I don't have to have an exposed, tattered cut. For the two entrances and the stable window, I'm using a couple other fabric chunks with a slit cut down the middle, then tying them back with some twine. The moist Mod Podge wasn't falling exactly how I liked, so I'm using some binder clips to keep it nice and tight around the edges. For the center post, I'm using Big Stick, then poorly hiding the hot glue squirt in the center with coffee stirrers, but ultimately you won't really see it because I don't plan on having a playable or viewable interior for this build. I made a big ol' ring for the second roof peak using more coffee stirrers, then carefully balanced the stick and hot glue until it was suspended in midair from the main post. This part was a little frustrating as the posts kept wanting to fall, but we made it, congrats. Oh no, where'd this come from? Using a straightened out paper clip, I'm giving this blue fabric some bones to help it keep its shape as the archway doors for the stable. By the way, if you're enjoying this video and you want to see more like it,
How about a subscribe for luck?
You've got to be kidding.
now that we have some bone indoors, I'm using these pleather scraps to make some leather straps. I'm hitting these strands with a glaze of super glue, then wrapping it like this. Some hot glue secures it to the door frames, then polishing it off with the thickest crown strap before moving on to the big top roof. I cut 12 triangles about this size, using my initial triangle as a template before arranging them into a very non-Zelda logo. I don't have a sewing machine, so I'm going to use the worst alternative, but actually you know what, it didn't turn out like complete garbage. I'm hemming together each roof wedge with some molten plastic and hey, look at that. Take that, big thread. I kept a hole in the center of the canopy so I could fit it around the main post here, then made a quick garbage glob to prevent the center from sagging. And here's why hot glue trumps a needle and thread. It comes with easy tear technology so you can just rip those seams open to fit them around your sticks. I sealed the edges with hot glue, then tried to give them a nice ruffle to add some additional fabric folds, then used watered down Mod Podge to seal in the folds and add strength. After the Lon milk was left to dry for a few hours in the sun, I was left with a nice crispy tent. Okay, next up on deck is the deck again, which I'm painting with some watered down brown and terracotta in a nice earthy tie-dye pattern. I also hit it with a little bit of additional brown wash to blend it all together before hot gluing it in place. In my stash of old jewels, I found this gold chain to work as a garland around each post. I used ugly dabs of hot glue at each point, which will become hidden behind these whittled posts I'm making here. After this glue stopped being a little stinker, I decided to hold this twine in a very smart way and use a lighter to singe off my finger hairs. And also the twine hairs too. Next, I split some coffee stirrers in half to use as boards to mount the stable banners, which I'll be making later. One kind of sad thing I realized while researching this project was how little space the horses actually get at the stable. The tent houses like 50 deluxe beds and the horses get a little dirt square on the side. I could have taken some artistic liberties and made the horse portion a little bit bigger, but I already ran out of room on my base, so sorry horses. We'll toss them in later once we have dirt. But for now, let's make the little front counter. Using a soft piece of balsa wood and a hard piece of toothpick, I engraved some board and nail hole details for the counter. Then I sliced out the horseshoe-shaped window from more balsa wood and used some pleather scraps to add the stitch details around the edge. I stained it with some watered down acrylic paint, then I took off my horse toe ring that I keep on my pinky toe and sacrificed it to this project because it was too perfect. While everything here is mostly recycled, I did make one specific purchase for this project actually. This bag of 100 horseshoe pendants, of which I only needed about 15. Be sure to comment your horse and non-horse ideas for what I should do with the other 85 horseshoes. Cool, so the tent portion is pretty much structurally done at this point, so we're going to move on to the more interesting part, the horse assemblage up top. The horse neck is largely a lot of sticks and twine and hot glue, so I'm going to kind of just fly through this area so it doesn't get repetitive. Sorry, I really didn't do much measuring, it was mostly just eyeballing to see what looked right before gluing it together. But for the head, I happen to have this little robo puppy lying around, which if you squint and do a handstand, you can sort of imagine how this would look like a horse head. Time to break out the big guns, and by guns I mean rotary tool. This is my first time using this tool, so please tell me about my dangerous form in the comments below. Anyway, to make a horse head, just sort of casually behead this poor innocent dog. Now it's really taken shape, but plastic has no place in Breath of the Wild, so I'm covering it up with a little bit of paper mache using tissues and watered down glue. Then after letting it dry for several hours, and then giving it the old knock test, it was ready. Dang, actually I wish it was a little bit longer. Let's see what I have lying around. Ooh, this is perfect horse nose mouth shape. I'm gluing a couple of these ping pong wedges on for extra length, and it only temporarily looks like a parrot beak. Time to base coat it in brown.
That is one big pile of shit.
After giving my horse god a nice wooden necklace, I pulled out some clay nuggets that I conveniently already had dried, then chopped them into some horse teeth. My horse has gingivitis. Let's hide the teeth roots with some more ping pong wedges as some gums. And then let's hide the ping pong with some balsa wood wedges. To shortcut a lot of the various fabrics that cover up the horse assemblage, I'm using mini chunks of an old multicolored sock I had in my rag bag. Then I'm using some watered down brown acrylic paint to stain all the wood. Next I'm using these two watch straps I had for the horse mask, aka the face of
Melania, god of horses.
For the eyes I'm drilling a couple holes, then using these old earrings to bend them into shape and force them into the sockets. Next up is constructing the wooden crown mane thing using a bunch of coffee stirring sticks and some hot glue. And then to finish off the crown, I'm using a little piece of craft foam and painting it brown until it kind of resembles leather. Solid banner running up the length of the mask, but it was actually easier just to attach it piece by piece and to give the illusion that it's one solid banner. These are tiny tack pins super glued in place, then the flap is secured behind the mask using secret hot glue. Shh. A couple more horseshoes as nostrils, and then I'm using these beads and more pleather straps to build the bridle around this untamed wild horse. Personally, I am deeply offended of the arrogance to put a bridle on a horse god. For the ridge on the back of the horse mane, I'm whittling some of these triangles until they are nice and lumpy and look like they were carved by the hands of someone using ancient tools of old. more horse neck, and then I'm prepping the other neck with some whittled logs so I can join the two necks as one. Just a few more sticks at this point. We are almost at full neck, and voila, full horse. But it needs some twine around each joint to give the illusion that it's not held together with hot glue. Look at all these choice colors and patterns on this one sock. This is pretty much all I'm going to use to fill in all the gaps on the horse neck. I believe in the game there is a wreath of blue feathers that goes around the base of the neck, so the next best thing is a strip of fabric sliced into tatters instead. Now we're about to get dirty, so I'm laying out a bib for baby. I'm spreading out some Mod Podge, then attempting to sprinkle the dirt, but it was hard to get it into the nooks and crannies, so I used my fingers instead. There's plenty of good dirt in this dirt, so I'm saving it for later. Here's Luke Towen's classic combo of isopropyl alcohol and watered down Mod Podge to seal it in and add some bonus dirt in the spots I might have missed. But my secret trick for proper horse dirt is tamping it down with some tiny hooves. We really gotta make sure this looks lived in. Yeah, even at the entrance here. I only had tiny hooves and not tiny feet. I care about my horses, so they get a roof made of Hanes Comfort Flex Fit. Hope I've done you proud, Breen. To make the stable banners, I blocked the camera with the back of my hand, then used tissue paper and super watered down Mod Podge to add wrinkles and stiffen it up a bit. While that was drying, I wanted to highlight the single tone tent, so I dry brushed a lighter red along any raised fabric folds using a chisel brush to add a little bit of contrast. I made this tiny trough off camera using balsa wood and some 2-part epoxy as water. Then, using gloss Mod Podge, I'm adding ripples by using a straw and blowing at it until it's nice and wrinkly. Ah, wrinkly is definitely a word people use to describe water. In my stick haul from earlier, I found this tiny stump, which was from a tree that I felled with this tiny axe. I'm adding the stump as some additional detail in the diorama, as well as a full tree to stand next to its fallen brethren. Oh, hey, you didn't think I was going to let my horses go hungry, did you? For the grass, I'm using a blend of green and yellow turf from Woodland Scenics, sprinkling on a base layer of green first, and then topping it off with a bit of yellow to add some variation in a few places. I could have saved the excess that didn't stick here for later, but instead I'm being a wastrel and just vacuuming it up. Whoops, bye. To bush it up a bit, I'm using some of this clump foliage from Woodland Scenics in a few select places, then placing my tiny axe into the body of its murder victim. Back at it again with the horse god, this time closing in with some finishing details such as a brown acrylic wash on the coffee stirrers, some ears made of crafting foam, and then the requisite markings on the face of the mask. As you know, horses have no souls, so I'm amping up the fear factor by creating a black abyss in the center of the eyes with acrylic paint. And then for the final horse details, I'm using Citadel Nuln Oil to bring out some of the cracks in the leather. After the tissue paper banners dried, I tried my hand at painting some crude horses and suns. Thankfully, the paintings on these banners in the game are already kinda crude, so I nailed it. Then I turned my attention to the stable sign, which I assembled using coffee sticks, and then practiced my Hylian handwriting to scribe out the word stable. It took me many years to become a scholar of the Hylian language, so do not attempt to comprehend this ancient script. I'm using a homemade acrylic wash to remove that classic Kleenex white and age it up a bit. I'd say 1 passive wash per age of calamity is a good rule of thumb. So I used to have cats, but now I don't, but I still have this cat scratcher which I use as a great tool for mounting alligator clips. I'm going to create the 2 pennant banners that hang off the front of the horse. I'm using the same technique as before, using tissue paper and Mod Podge, and then painting the flags in various colors. These banners I made actually ended up having a practical purpose. After I finished the horse, I realized it was kind of leaning to one side, so I was able to rein it in a little bit by putting a little tension on the twine before pulling it to the edge and gluing it in place. After a little bit of dry brushing to bring out some of the edge details around the deck and around the edge of the horse god mask, it was time to feed my need for steeds. Using a little PVA glue, I made it so the horses can never leave, and that's it. Before I show the beauty shots, I want to thank all the new patrons that have joined me in the last month. Here's a quick shout out to all these new good pals.
Ready? Go!
Will L. Kyle, Reardon, Professor Nowitz, Erksterd, Konstantin Kraus, Billy Vata, Michael Treadway, Dominique Rodriguez, Christina Cope, Cameron Switzer, Jen K, Connor, Our Humblebee, Ashu, Plus 18 Art, Andy. Thanks, patrons. In addition to funding videos like this and getting various benefits, new patrons get a shout out in the next video. Thanks for your spare rupees. Well, thanks for watching my video over here at Studson's Stable. If you liked it, consider subscribing for more, and as always, let me know what kind of things you'd like to see crafted in the future. I think there's still a lot of real good Zelda potential left untapped out there, so Zelda suggestions are still on the table as well. Also, special thanks to the support on Patreon. All the rupees there go directly to helping me make more of these. That'll do it for this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Beep, beep.